Once again, there's something that caught my eye, and I always wonder why some electricians install four-way consumer unit in a three-bedroomed house. How? And before I go to that, especially where you have that house has got maybe a heating circuits, maybe two heating circuits, precisely instant water heaters are involved. Okay, before I get there, let me just take you through the power circuits, the power sub circuits inside the house, because I might mention something you don't know, like ring or radio. So in power sub circuits, in our internal wiring, we have got two types of power circuits. We have ring final sub circuit, we have radial final sub circuit, and you have a SPA. A SPA is not a final sub circuit, but a SPA is a branch of a ring final sub circuit. And if you may ask, what is a ring final sub circuit? A ring final sub circuit is a circuit originating from a point in the distribution board or maybe consumer unit, looped to respective terminals of 13-amp socket outlet, and again it goes back to its origin at the consumer unit or at the distribution board. The second one is the radial final sub circuit. So a radial final sub circuit is a circuit originating from a point in the distribution board or maybe the consumer unit, looped to respective terminals of 13-amp socket outlet and terminated to the last one. That is the radial final sub circuit. And I mentioned a ring as a branch of I mentioned a SPA as a branch of a ring. So a SPA is a branch of a ring final sub circuit, basically intended to supply electricity to remote areas where taking a ring will be expensive. So a branch from any of the sockets forming a ring is known as a SPA. And in the ring, that SPA, the IE regulations stipulates that the number of sockets forming a SPA should not exceed the number of sockets forming a ring. And again, the cable used to wire a SPA should be of the same size as that one used to wire a ring final sub circuit. So, alluding to what I actually talked about, and I said that why should you install a four-way consumer unit in a three-bedroomed house? Why? Because in a three-bedroom house, we expect to have two ring final sub circuits. And this is in an isolated case where one of the ring is going to originate from a 32 amp in the consumer unit. Maybe it goes to the sitting room, then it comes back to the consumer unit. And any subsequent room, or any room, maybe it's a bedroom or maybe a study room, or they might get their power from one of the rings. So if you loop one of the sockets to the other room, that is through back entry, then that is what we call a SPA. That's what's called a SPA, because a SPA is looped from a ring. In the radio there is no SPA, so a SPA is looped from a ring. So that's why I was saying that if a ring is going, maybe coming from the consumer unit, then goes to the sitting room, then goes back again to the consumer unit, then you might have as a back entry to the other room. Then you loop the back entry to the other side of the wall, so that you can have maybe 2 to 3 sockets in that in that setup. But those number of sockets shall not exceed the number of socket outlets forming that ring. So for those who doesn't know, that loop, the one you always say do a back entry to the other side, that's called a spar. So I said we are going to have like 2 rings, maybe 1 ring, the one I'm saying go to the sitting room, the other ring to the other room, then they come back to the consumer unit. This each and every ring should have its own circuit breaker rated 32 amps. So those are 2. You already used 2 units or circuit breakers. Remember, you had 4. You are using 4-way consumer unit, so already you've used 2. Remember, we have cooker unit. Cooker circuit is a radio, so meaning its supply must come direct from the consumer unit and goes to the cooker control unit. That is 3. We have already done with 3. If you are using 4-way consumer unit, remember you only have 1 point remaining. And remember, in this house you might be having like maybe 2 water heater circuits. Water heater circuits must originate from the consumer unit, and these are radial circuits, and they should be have different circuit breakers. So if you have 2 in that house, already we have exceeded for 4-way consumer unit. You see that? And you see instances where you've used a 4-way consumer unit and all your circuits have not been exhausted. You see one is just looping a water heater from a nearby socket. Remember, the socket is wired at 2.5 millimeter square. Water heating circuit is supposed to be wired at 4.0. How do you loop water heater from a nearby socket outlet? How? And again, how do you loop a socket from a cooker control unit terminals? Why? Please stop using shortcuts. Stop using shortcuts. There are instances where if the client actually is adamant and actually directing you what to do, please leave that work and tafute kati ingine mzuri itakutafutia customers. Asanteni sana.